crypto warriors, changing our world day by day. The way of the crypto warriors, can't rely on the bankers, no way.
Good morning, Bix Weir, roadrunner.com with your morning hornets. Here's your sip of chaga coffee. If you missed yesterday's show, we have announced the dates of the second leg of the Freedom Road Show. We are going to Sonoma, Salt Lake City, Denver, Kansas City, St. Louis, Austin, and Oklahoma City. We're starting in mid-July. Please, if you're in the neighborhood or if you want to fly in, come join us. Oklahoma City will be 2 days. We do our roadshow on the Friday night, and then Lake Queen Lisa has her event on the Saturday. We'll participate in that as well. So if you are anywhere in the middle of America, come see us. Come hang out with us. Talk freedom, talk silver, talk cryptos, and meet people who think similarly to you in your understanding that there's something wrong with our country. There's something seriously wrong with our country, and we get to the bottom of who's doing it, why they're doing it, how they're trying to destroy the United States of America, how they're rigging every market to try to keep up the fake facade, and we move on. Yeah, it's very interesting stuff if you believe in your country and you want your freedom. Democrats are fleeing the Democratic Party by the droves because it's a joke. It's incredibly embarrassing for, even in California, living in California, people are pretty much flat out embarrassed about what they got. You know, you get what you pay for type of thing, and this administration is completely falling down. And it has to do with the corruption from top to bottom. The Biden family is one of the most corrupt. I'd say the top three. I'd say the number one is the Bush family, number two is the Clinton family, and number three is the Biden family. They're small players, but they're multi-million dollar, maybe even billion-dollar players in getting payoffs. So, yeah, this isn't a Republican thing or a Democrat thing. This is an American thing. And we need to fight for our country, stand up and say no more. We can't take any more of this insane, the lies are just off the charts. So this whole January 6th debacle of I'll get to that right away, actually. CNN is just touting this as it's the greatest bit of evidence ever. This woman who testified that there's people in Trump lunged for the steering wheel of the limousine, and it turns out it was all a lie. And it doesn't matter. The whole thing's a lie. Everything you hear out of our government, out of our media, out of our social media, it's a lie. Everything is a lie. And those hoping, Bix, if Gesra and Nesra and the quantum financial system takes over, everything's fixed. That's a lie too. We need decentralized everything now. That's why cryptos are so important, the good cryptos. And if I hear another person say, cryptos are backed by nothing, they'll never survive. Is anything backed by anything will survive without trust? Nothing. You can't go to a gold standard without a redeemable gold standard where you can walk into a bank, give them the gold certificates and get your gold because no one trusts anybody. And there's not 200,000 tons of gold in the world. There's more like 2 million or 4 million tons of gold. Nobody knows how much gold there is, but it's a hell of a lot more than what they're telling you. So, we're living in a land of lies, and as this falls apart, no one will believe anybody anymore. So Gary Gensler, and I'll get to that in a second as well, Gary Gensler, the SEC guy who wants to put regulations around cryptos, we're not going to have an SEC. We're not going to have a CFTC. We're not going to have a Justice Department. The Democrats are all ready to throw out the Supreme Court. I think we need to get rid of everybody. And that's the sad part about this coming chaos. Is our government is completely corrupt from top to bottom. And we need to start fresh, which I think we'll do with the destruction of the derivative market. Anyway, this is the woman, some woman named Hutchinson. But, she testified, Trump asked for the steering wheel to go to the Capitol. And it turns out it's 100% wrong. And everybody who was in the limousine at the time are ready to testify under oath that she's lying. Wow, there goes the star witness of January 6th is proven to be a liar under oath. I believe. I don't know if this is under oath. That'd be another thing. If these people are lying under oath, they're just lying on a normal. This woman's going to be the laughing stock, just like the woman who accused Brett Kavanaugh. But that's where we are. That's where we are. That's the crazy world we live in that we're going to get rid of. So we will be on the road talking about all this stuff we can't talk about on YouTube. Come join us and join in the fun. Yeah, it's a blast. All right, silver price is being held steady still. The funny thing about, let's talk about Jeffrey Christian, who's the mouthpiece of the banks as far as silver and gold. I don't hear anybody asking Jeffrey Christian what is the value of gold versus silver. And I know he doesn't believe in the gold-silver ratio, but how about, let's ask him this question. Jeff, according to your data, there's 6 billion ounces of gold in the world and 6 billion ounces of silver in the world, and silver is much more important as an industrial metal, but it's also a monetary metal. How do you justify an 85-to-1 gold-silver ratio? What should silver be if there's exactly the same amount of silver in the world and it's getting consumed every day, whereas gold is just getting thrown into the coffers? That's the official data. There's 6 billion ounces of gold and 6 billion ounces of silver. Why is silver trading at 1/85th the value of gold? Being that they're both monetary metals. He can't disagree with that. I mean, silver and gold are monetary metals. They always have been monetary metals. And silver longer than gold and more useful than gold. Silver should be valued higher than gold, in my opinion. And we're using it all up. So, Jeff, please answer that one. If there's 6 billion ounces of each, why is the silver-gold ratio, price ratio, so disconnected? Obviously, the answer is manipulation and price suppression by the bullion banks. Jeffrey doesn't believe that also. But, the reality is JP Morgan got busted for $920 billion for rigging the gold, silver, and the FX markets. There goes his whole theory of silver's not manipulated he's been spouting for the last 50 years. Jeff Christian needs to be put out to pasture and retire early. I am not looking for much action at the COMEX. COMEX, completely criminal organization. They've called it the CRIMEX since the 1980s because the amount of criminality goes on. The CFTC, that ridiculous organization that is the regulator, should be gone as well. Everybody knew silver was rigged for decades. And the CFTC did 3 investigations and found no manipulation. And then the Department of Justice had to come in and bust JP Morgan and 4 other banks that colluded with them in RICO fashion and shut down that operation. It was just spoofing they got them for it, but there was so much more. Spoofing is interesting because no one can sue you on that one because the trades never actually make it to the market. So yeah, I don't expect anything to happen on the CRIMEX anymore. I mean, 99% of the trades that happen on the COMEX silver is banks trading back and forth to each other through a company called Virtu Financial. Virtu Financial, run by Vinny Viola, high-frequency trading arm of the cabal. Vinny Viola and Bernie Madoff were 2 heads of the NYMEX and the NYMEX and it wasn't in New York. It was I forgot the other one. But Vinny Viola controlled the commodity part through high-frequency trading. That's why they are an authorized participant at SLV, the silver ETF that helps control the price. Just a heads up, I hear that Grayscale Trust is starting an ETF for Bitcoin using Virtu Financial. So good night, free price discovery. All you crypto people who want there to be a freely traded price of Bitcoin, if Virtu is involved, which it looks like they want to be and they're going to be, you could say goodbye to any hope of free trading and free fair market value being discovered. That if you want to know who facilitates the rigging, it's Virtu Financial, Vinny Viola. I love the name, Vinny Viola. He went to, I think he went to West Point and was kicked out back in the West Point cheating scandal. He says he wasn't involved, but they all say that. But he's clearly controls all prices on all markets right now, and that's who the bankers use. His high frequency trading firm. I heard he trades 1/3 of all trades in everything through his computer programs. Insane what is allowed in free market. All right, so silver futures, as we can see, silver trading is elevated. That just means more banks are trading back and forth to each other at higher volumes to control the price. As you can see right here, there's only 6,000 contracts left in open interest. After tomorrow, this could be one of the lowest delivery months in the history of silver, because the deliveries aren't happening on the COMEX. The deliveries are happening in OTC, over-the-counter market, which is where Bank of America is transferring all the JP Morgan silver, over 1 billion ounces, to Warren Buffett. Just keep that in mind, that you won't see it. You won't see what's going on in silver on the COMEX. I think it'll be one of, if not the lowest, one of the lowest in the last 10 years delivery months on the COMEX. Keep an eye on that. And they'll say, "Oh, silver's dead. Look, nobody's taking delivery." But all the deliveries are happening off the exchanges. So that's what I think's going on. If you want to keep an eye on, I don't know how big this is. The EFPs, exchange for physical, is when you take a COMEX contract and move it to London for settlement. That's so it's not visible. It's just complete fraud. I mean, why even have deliveries when you don't really have to deliver? It goes over to London, and at London, it goes to the LBMA, which is not even an exchange. It's basically a good old boy network. So I don't trust these numbers as actually being delivered, because the LBMA claims to deliver over 100 billion ounces of silver every year, which is the stupidest thing you ever heard. So that's what we have to deal with. Isn't that fun? All right. I want to talk about yesterday. I talked about Gary Gensler, and Jim Cramer is a ridiculous joke, but they use him. He's a terrible actor. You can see him acting the whole thing. They use him when they want to spread the disinformation, spread what the controllers, basically this takedown of the cryptos was the same as the last takedown of the cryptos. It was instigated by the President's Working Group on Financial Markets, which is the head of the Fed, the head of the Treasury, the head of the CFTC, and the head of the SEC, along with their flunkies. So Gary Gensler obviously took a lead role in the takedown of cryptos in the latest maneuver. And the way they did that is the same as they always do. They allow everybody to get in, and then they pull a plug. This was the plug. They got everybody into DeFi. Everybody's, I'm going to make money, have money. And they were all Ponzi schemes for the most part. And then the plug was pulled. Gary Gensler says, we're going to put regulations on. And then the cryptos crashed. And they are still crashing. There's still a few tricks they have up their sleeves. The number one trick is the takedown of Tether. I think that'll be the ultimate slam, and then the banks will buy up all the cryptos, and then they'll let it run again. Or they could lose control. And the SEC, in the melee of the collapse of the financial system, the SEC might be just said, forget about it. We don't need an SEC. In free markets, you don't need an SEC. If there's con men and riggers that are allowed to be on an exchange, no one would go to that exchange to trade anything they had. That's the way the world should work. Instead, we have these fake regulators that facilitate the con men within the control of the system. So I hope it gets bad enough that no SEC is needed. We don't need SEC in a free market. If there's a problem with the market, you will lose all your money. So not everybody should be in the market. Unless you're willing to be scammed and bamboozled, you shouldn't be in the markets. You should get a job. But there'll be no debt, which is the most beautiful thing. But most people will lose all their assets as well. So Get your physical silver in your own possession. Get your cryptos, good cryptos in your own possession. My number one pick is Theta, the future of the internet. But we will see what happens. I think all this is happening this year. Chaos is coming. Gary Gensler is desperate to implement these new rules around cryptos, and it's going to take one more major slam, which I think will be Tether and XRP at the same time. XRP is a joke anyway. So there we have it. That's my take. And as you can see, from this interview comes SEC Chair Gary Gensler reaffirms Bitcoin as a commodity and can be regulated under the CFTC. Remember, they're not regulated anymore, or they haven't been regulated. They've had 13 years to regulate cryptos, but they refuse to do it because they like playing their games of letting it run and then crashing it down to destroy your wealth. These are the people who work for you. Gary Gensler will come out and say, oh, yeah, well, this is for the people. We're trying to do it for the people. Remember, Gary Gensler ran the CFTC all those years that JP Morgan was rigging the market and sucking up physical silver. Gary Gensler was Hillary Clinton's pick as her Treasury Secretary if she had won. Gary Gensler is not a good guy. Sorry, Gary. I mean, I know you try. I think you try. I don't know. He just wants to maintain control for his master, if you ask me. Again, this is not a good sign. Grayscale Bitcoin Trust lines up Jane Street and Virtu in the ETF bit. But then there's this conflicting stuff. SEC is reviewing changes to share trading after an explosion of interest in meme stocks, including the use of payment for order flow. If Gary Gensler makes payment for order flow illegal, which it should be, then Virtu's done. So it's Gary Gensler a good guy or bad guy? I don't know. They don't even need any of this shit if they just use Veritasium, but that ship has sailed, and 98 million Veritasium tokens, 98% of all Veritasium tokens, are in limbo, frozen by the SEC for some reason. I don't know. Could Cliff High be right? All right, let's get back to oil. Astoundingly, the Energy Information Administration, the IEA for the U.S., who reports all the oil and gas prices, so it helps us determine what the next inflation will be, has been shut down for 2 weeks. U.S. Energy Information Administration product release is scheduled for June 28th. This is the week after they shut down the week before, will be delayed. We will publish the weekly petroleum status report on June 29th as scheduled, including all back data. So supposedly today, the 29th of June, we're finally going to get the numbers. What do I think they are? I don't know. I would guess they would be flat to down, because June is the last month that a year ago there was an uptick in inflation. So this June would be the last month they can say, oh, look, we got inflation under control. But then we got July, August, and September that inflation the year prior was at zero or down. So you're going to see massive inflation July, August, September. That's when we get to $15 gasoline, in my opinion. And by the way, if you're interested in gasoline, I had something on gasoline. I don't know where it is, but it showed all the refining capacity has dropped for 2 years on the difference between oil and gasoline. Gasoline is a refined product of oil. But the capacity, it doesn't matter what the price of oil really is, because you don't have the refining capacity in the U.S. anymore. And we're coming into the July 4th driving weekend, which is huge. And we have lined up, by the way, speaking of gasoline, and we drive 2 RVs on the roadshow. Talk about a gas bill. But we have 2 sponsors. Perpetual Assets, Will Lair, and Gus Demos have said they'd sponsor us for the road trip, as well as our friends at Miles Franklin. Andy Scheckman is sponsoring us again. So thank you guys both for helping us defer that crazy gas bill that I can't. We're gonna keep close track of this because it's insane what it takes to fill up 2 RVs and then drive around the country. But it is 100% worth it. We are committed to it, and we are going. First show is on July 17th in Sonoma, and then go check out roadtoruta.com. click on Roadshow, and you will see the dates, and you can get tickets. We will be selling tickets prior to the show, so make sure you got your ticket before the show. This secures your spot. It's only $25, and find the city closest to you and come join us. I don't know if they're going to sell out or not. We had a couple shows that were sold out, that we had to pack people in the back, which we don't want to do. So make sure you get your tickets early. Again, go to Roadshow and then scroll down and get your ticket for Denver, Kansas City, St. Louis, Austin, Oklahoma City, Salt Lake City. Go check it out. This is Bix Weir, roadwarrior.com.